Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on our very first Bayou City Art Festival happy hour. We're going to have sort of a virtual art talk hangout tonight. I'm Derek Shore from KPRC Channel 2. So glad to be with you tonight during these very strange times, but we of course know how important art is to our community. KPRC is one of three proud sponsors of tonight's event, along with Stella Artois, Frost Bank, and we're going to have some very special guests joining us a little later on in today's program. So if you're unfamiliar with the Bayou City Art Festival, it's been running for 49 years. Next year will be the 50th year. Twice a year, a group of artists from all over the place showcase their really great talents. In the spring, the event happens at Memorial Park. In the fall, it typically happens downtown. The spring event this year was canceled due to COVID, and the fall event will be virtual. But there are still some great ways you can get involved. See this little number over my head? I know my hand's kind of disappearing on this virtual background. If you text Save Our Art to 243-725, you can donate. Any amount is appreciated, but you can donate to give back to help this community. And you know, over the years, the Bayou City Art Festival, they have given back millions of dollars to their community partners. So we're going to learn more about the organization a little later on during this hour. And we should point out that this is the first of a series of 5 artist talks. So excited to have Gonzo247 with us tonight. You can see him on your screen, I believe. And Gonzo, listen, it is so great to see you virtually now, even though we're not hanging out, but we want to really get to know your story a little bit better, Gonzo, because when I was a young person, just the idea of street art and graffiti, it wasn't considered cool back then. And actually, it wasn't even considered okay. Here in Houston, we know not only is it okay, but you have really become such a critical part of the fabric of our community. So 2 things. First of all, welcome. And secondly, how did this journey begin for you?
First of all, it's awesome to see you, man. I know we crossed paths professionally, and it's definitely interesting now to see you on the screen, but it's always a pleasure to hang out. I just want to say thanks to everyone for inviting me to participate. I think this is a really great evening and great way to kind of explore different avenues of you know, the new normal. But you know, I'm really excited to see Houston kind of just take the reins, artists and everyone else in the creative industry, and pretty much just figuring out how to make it work, how to make it happen. You know, it's one thing to let this pandemic and situation bear you down, but it's another to say, okay, now that I have these parameters, how can I maximize what I can do with what, you know, it isn't what you can do with what you don't have. It's like, how much can you do? Be creative and inventive and just kind of find a new route, a new way to express yourself. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share. Hopefully people are tuning in and throwing questions at us, but let's just rock out, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, it sounds good. And Gonzo, it is great to see you as well. I remember when Houston Life first started and you were always so nice appearing on the show. We got to have you back very soon. People call you a pioneer, right? And one of the things about being a pioneer is that you don't always have someone ahead of you to really look up to, because maybe you're charting brand new waters, right? Uncharted territory. So do you consider yourself a pioneer? And at what point in your life did you realize that you had this talent that wasn't just about creating really cool stuff, but talent that really could have an impact on your community?
So like, I would say nowadays, looking back, I can see, you know, the idea of pioneering something. But when I first got into this, what I saw was more of a wild, wild west of like, there's nothing here, nothing exists, and trying to figure out a way to make something happen in an environment where it really wasn't conducive to be out there with a spray can. But, you know, I was born and raised here in Houston, in the East End. And for me growing up, thankfully, I think I was born in just the right time. You know, I was born in 1972. So I got to see the end of disco. You know, I got to see, you know, the beginning of punk. You know, there's so many great things that were happening between 70 and 80. And I was a part of that growing up in the East End. There really wasn't a lot of art, a lot of public art to really look at as inspiration or just kind of just to get your mind off of things. But thankfully, on Canal Street, there was one mural painted by Leo Tanguma. And he started the mural, it's called The Rebirth of Our Nationality, but he started it in 1972. So the year I was born is when he started this mural. And it took him till halfway 73 to complete it. So it took about a year or so, year and a half to finish this mural. So every day, driving up and down with my parents, I mean, I was looking out the window. Back then, there was no technology, there was no internet, there was no cell phone commanding my attention. So the only screen I had was the window screen, and I had to look out the window, you know? And so as I'm looking out the window, we drive by this mural every day. And you know, as a kid, I really couldn't understand what that was, but the impact that it had on me was life-changing. It was, you know, this monstrous murals. It was like 4 feet off the ground and 18 feet up, and then 240 feet wide. So it was really monumental. And really that scale is what drove me to say, you know, I don't know how to do anything like that, but one day I would love to do something like that. But then, you know, from 5, 6, 7, 8, like my earliest memory is this mural. And up until then, I didn't really know anything about art. You know, my parents immigrated here from Mexico. They came here for the American dream of like, you're born here, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna become an engineer, doctor, lawyer, whatever. So they kind of had this idea of what they wanted me to do in life. And, you know, for me saying I like art, it was kind of like, I don't know about that. But when I would run across other people and they were like, oh, you like art, let me show you what art is. And every time someone tried to help me, it kind of set me back in the sense that, you know, what they showed me was art is typical what people think is, you know, Western European, Renaissance, the classics. So I'm looking at landscapes, portraits, still lifes, fruits, you know, and, you know, being this brown kid from the East End, like I couldn't really wrap my mind or really connect with the content. And also I knew that I didn't have that kind of talent. So, you know, I'm trying to draw a face, but I couldn't do it. You know, trying to draw architecture at the time, you know, being 8, 9, I didn't have that kind of talent. So what I did is, some of y'all, hopefully some of these viewers will know what I'm talking about here. But back in the days, if you wanted information, you had to go to this thing called the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's kind of like if you printed out Google,
yeah,
and put it in a book form, that's kind of what the encyclopedia was. And so I would dig through the encyclopedia to try to find reference images of things I was interested in, like animals or dinosaurs or whatever. And I would try to draw them out of the encyclopedia. And that was kind of what I was doing. And then it was at the end of the 70s, probably around 79, 80, between 79, 80, maybe into 81. I'm driving around with my dad and, you know, I'm tuning the radio. And then all of a sudden I just kind of heard this music that I never heard before. And it turns out it was called rap music, right? And so at this point, you know, the hip hop culture is kind of trickling its way across the United States from the East Coast. And once I heard rap music, I really connected with it because, again, up until then, I was listening to other people's music. I was listening to my aunt's disco. I was listening to my uncle's, what they call classic rock now. You know, my dad loved 50s music, 60s music. My grandparents had old school rancheras. And so when I heard rap, that was the first time I heard music that was speaking to me directly as an urban youth. And that really just struck a chord in me. And what really made me love it even more is that everyone else around me didn't understand it and they hated it. And so I was like, yes, this is my jam. So then rap, a lot of people think rap is hip hop and hip hop is rap, but rap is just one component of the hip hop. So you have rap is the vocal, then you have b-boying or break boy, that's the dance, the physical, and then you have the DJ that creates the music, and then you have the graffiti writer, and graffiti is the visual language of hip hop. And so once I kind of connected these dots, what really struck me was when I saw finally through digging, research, card catalog, magazines, library, like old school. There was no internet. You couldn't just type things up and look for it. You had to go digging for it. But every now and then, you know, I would find these reference images. And the first time I saw a photograph of the people that were creating these graffiti masterpieces, they were kids that looked like me. They were my age and they were from the ghetto. They were from, you know, the East Coast, and they're trespassing, painting subway cars illegally with spray paint. And once that barrier got broken down, that I could be an artist, and I saw someone that I could reference to connect with, it really opened that door. The other thing was, people kept telling me, well, an artist has to use a brush, has to use acrylic, has to use oil, has to use muslin and canvas. And I had no clue what any of that stuff was. But when I saw spray paint, I was like, yo, like everybody knows how to use spray paint, because spray paint was never, it was never a medium for art. It was a tool to paint your bicycle or your mailbox. And I had used spray paint before, so I wasn't afraid of it. Plus, my dad had a garage full of it. And so I went to my dad's garage, I found a can of spray paint, I saw this piece of plywood, and I just kind of like thought about something, and I kind of started, and then within minutes, I kind of had created something. And that instant gratification is what really, I just love that sense of being able to create something now. Again, I think I was fortunate that I didn't have a phone where I could just push a button and just get instant gratification nonstop. But a spray can really helped me to hone that in. And that's kind of where I took off. And I was, okay, this is me, this is what I'm gonna do. And so I started to venture out, between 13, 14 till about 17. I was cutting my teeth, in train yards, in alleys, behind stores, wherever I could find space. And when I was 17, I was graduating high school. And that's kind of when, it's a pivotal moment in your life when you can go anywhere. And I really didn't have any clue as to what I was going to do. I just knew that I liked to draw. And in the end, there was this motivational speaker dude that came out to talk to the senior class. And, he's talking about all the things everyone does after high school. And he's like, some of you guys are going to college. You've already applied, you got accepted. Some of you guys are going to go to the military or straight to the workforce. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, you're not much of a motivator, because like none of those options really appeal to me. And in the end, he kind of was like, look, before you go off and do whatever it is you're going to do with the rest of your life, let me just ask you this. Think about, what's the one thing that you love to do so much that you're willing to do that for free? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, graffiti, I do that for free anyway. And he said, whatever you're thinking about, you should consider that as your career. And that just blew my mind, because like, this is 1990. Graffiti was here in Houston. Houston was a different city in 1990. And just to say the word graffiti, you were always just lumped in with gang-related activity.
Right.
And I wanted to find a way to carve out this path where graffiti could sustain my life, right? But that was the tricky part, because we were in an area, like I said, the Wild Wild West, where this didn't exist, and the minds weren't open to understanding that there was this artistic component behind the spray can to create this art. And so I knew that I had to figure out a way to change that negative connotation surrounding spray paint and spray can art. And one of the things I realized early on was I had to kind of slowly just educate the general population, like just slowly, just one by one, help turn people's mind frame around as to what this is. At the same time, being here in Houston, there really wasn't anyone else that I could go look at or go see and go talk to, kind of get a mentor or kind of find out what it was going on. And so I realized that this was something that I just had to do it. And again, I had to go to libraries. I had to go dig up information. Thankfully, I found the card catalog, and I found that there was this magazine called Art in America, and there's another one called Art News. And I found it. I didn't even know anything about art magazines, right? So I started digging, and I pulled every issue from 1970 to 1980 off the shelves. And I was like Indiana Jones, man. I'm just like combing through, because I knew somewhere in these pages, there was going to be an article or an ad or something referencing a graffiti movement or exhibition or an artist. Like if these magazines really had their fingers on the pulse of what was happening, somewhere in these magazines, I was going to find something. And sure enough, every now and then I would find this old ad from 1982 that said, featuring Futura, Crash, Dondi. And I'm like, yo, like who are these people? And I would just write down all the information, and I would get home and I would write a letter. Like, let me repeat that. Not an email type, like a letter, like, dear so-and-so, my name's Gonzo. I'm like this graffiti writer in Houston, and I saw this ad in 1982, and I just want to get more information. Do you have any? And every day I would just write a letter, man, just send it in the mail. Or if there was a phone number, dude, I would just call it. Like, again, people now they have cell phones, and every call is free pretty much. But back then, if you had to type in an area code, they were charging you for that. And so I remember one time my dad walked in my room and he's like, what is this? And he had the cell phone or the phone bill for the house. It was like $800. Because I was calling Germany, China, Australia. Like, I didn't care. If it was something that I thought I could get more information and connected to the graffiti movement, then I just did it. And little by little, I started to actually connect with like some of the original, you know, the pioneers from the East Coast and beyond that started this movement, and we kind of became pen pals. And because I wasn't a threat to anybody. I wasn't from the East Coast. I wasn't from the West Coast. I was from the dirty third coast. And everyone said, yo, like there's this kid in Houston has graffiti. Oh man, let me write this guy a letter. And so I started to connect with these people, and I started to really get a bigger idea and a better sense of what this culture was about. And that really fueled me to really try and plant those seeds here in Houston of what this hip hop culture was about and how graffiti fit into it. So it definitely was a long journey to get to this point. And there's a lot that we can unpack from there, but that's kind of like the general arc of the story. But I'll kick it back to you in case there's something else you want to hone in on.
I do have one follow-up question, and we do have another guest I want to bring in just a moment. Also, I want to tell some of our viewers about some trivia and giveaways and a cocktail that you've got there. But Gonzo, at what point did you notice there was a shift? There is that cocktail. It's
Texas size, baby.
That is Texas size. Okay, tell us what's in it.
Oh, it's a whole lot of love. That's what I'm saying. And some paletas. You got to check out my homie Popston. Well, they're all falling apart because they've been in here marinating. But you know what? That's how we do it in Texas. Cheers.
But they were popsicles before they melted. What kind of booze? Is that tequila, vodka, gin?
It's a little bit of this. It's a little bit of that. A little unicorn tear sprinkled in. And we're just making this concoction to inspire us today.
You know what? I have a little of this and that, but I am fresh out of unicorn tears, so I'm not going to be able to whip up my own tonight, but I do have a Stella here. So before we bring in our special guest, Harry McMahon from Frost Bank, one quick follow-up question. Last night, we were walking through East Downtown, and we're big fans of the East End and East End Bayou and East Downtown. For those who don't know, East End is like original NEPA's off navigation. You got to spend some time in that neighborhood if you haven't. And Gonzo, spending time face to face with some of these murals, we passed some of them last night, right at St. Emmanuel and Leland. There are a ton right there. You have the class of 2020 and, space themes all over the place. I cannot imagine Houston without seeing your artwork all around the city. At what point did you feel like you were finally being embraced in Houston, and that graffiti or street art was finally being considered, given credit rather than just being considered graffiti?
So, I definitely have to say, after a while and venturing out, because Houston's so wide, so, Houston didn't grow up, it grew out. And so later on, as I'm doing my thing, I hear these rumors of, there's this other guy, like way on the other side of town that's doing stuff. And I would drive out there just looking, like trying to find other people. I was like, what? There's other people doing this? So after a while, we all kind of crossed paths. And so I think collectively, I'll put it this way. Personally, I just made it my mission to legitimize what I was doing. And in the beginning, I did get a little flack from my community of like, yo, you're selling out. Yo, man, you got to keep it real. I'm like, yo, that's cool. Like, you can keep it real. I got this bigger vision for the city. I have this bigger vision for what I want to do with this art form. And so my whole thing was, how can I work to open these doors so that they don't close behind me, right? So that slowly we can usher in this bigger movement. So it was kind of this slow evolution. One of the things, again, going back to just kind of, I knew that I had to kind of bring this art to the masses. And again, just kind of researching, I found these great organizations in the city, Diverse Works, the Orange Show, the Lawndale, Mother Dog. And I would go out and I would just find these spaces. And that was the first time that I saw that Houston had this bigger art scene. I didn't know anything about the art scene in Houston. I thought I was the only one doing it. And so once I started to connect and networking with other people, it was easier for me to be like, yo, I'm Gonzo, I'm a graffiti writer. Let me paint this wall here, or let me, and it really slowly started to filter in what I was doing with these other art events. And so I didn't realize that at the time, but I was building my network, right? I didn't know that's what it was. And back in those days, like if you wanted 100 friends, you had to go out and make 100 friends. You didn't just accept
what a concept.
You had to go do that, right? And so I was never afraid just to go out there and show myself and what I was doing. So fast forward, I think little by little, Houston was slowly really like embracing it. But I think a big turning point, especially in my career, but I think overall, I had the privilege of being a part of the Houston Is campaign. I got a phone call from Holly Clapman at Houston First, and she's like, "Yo, we're doing this photo shoot, and we want to include graffiti and street art in this advertisement to promote Houston around the world." And so I was part of the photograph, and that opened this door to the possibility of painting a mural, you know, Houston's Inspired. And so after kind of some back and forth, we were able to find and work with the great people at Treebirds and the property owners. And all that being said, in 2013, you know, I painted the Houston's Inspired mural. We kind of were at this position. We literally said, this can go really well or really bad, because we weren't sure if Houston was really ready for a full-on sanctioned graffiti mural in the heart of downtown. And so as I was painting it, you know, once it was done, we kind of stood back and looked. And I think, not to say that there weren't other Houston themed murals in the city, because there were, but I think this was the first time that there was a Houston themed mural in the heart of downtown, larger than life, that was really accessible to people. Up until then, you had to kind of know where to go to see the stuff, but this was literally like you could just drive up and see it. And I think once the word got out, I would always see people from other cities, and they could post really cool pictures on social media of where they're at and the cool artwork. And this was the first time that Houstonians had this wall that was open to everybody, that you can come up and just take a selfie or whatnot. And what for us is we were hoping that this wall would run at least 6 months. That's kind of what we were thinking. And so now it's been up 6 years. And, you know, the mural really just blew up in a great way. And thankfully, it really, I think, over general population, they saw the positive reactions, and other property owners saw all the attention. And I think slowly they're like, hey, I want some of that. And so I think more walls started to become available to more artists. And that's something that we always needed, was just more legal walls to paint. And that wall, I think, really helped just open that door wide open and say, hey, street art culture is here, and there's no shortage of artists. And now Houston has no shortage of walls. Let's make some things happen. And so I think that was a big turning point. After that, you definitely started seeing more commissions. And then that one wall, because of all the attention that we got, that inspired us to start the Hue Mural Festival. We were like, if this one wall can generate all this attention, you know, what if we had a week-long festival where we worked with local, national, international artists and, you know, paint as many walls as we could in this short amount of time and add to the visual landscape of the city. You know, I always knew that Houston could compete on an international level, and this was our opportunity to really show that.
It is so interesting hearing more about the story behind that Inspired mural. I will never forget the first night I saw that, and I'm sure plenty of people listening and watching right now, all you have to do is go on Instagram and search that location, or find the hashtag Houston Inspired, and you will see just how popular and widespread it's become.
So I will say this. When I painted it, I used about 250 spray cans to do the whole thing. Again, with the idea that we only really were going to maybe go a year. But now 6 years later, it's definitely seen its fair share of heat, humidity, and sun. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going back, just kind of, you know, on a really nice day, I'll go back and I'm repainting the entire thing. But this time I'm using exterior grade latex, so it'll last a lot longer. So you drive by, you might see me out there painting. If you're down, I'll give you a brush. You can help me out.
That's incredible. Let us know when you do that. We'll send a camera down. We'll capture the whole thing. All right. So we mentioned earlier that we do have you and that cocktail, Gonzo. It's awesome. So great. We did mention that we have another special guest. His name is Harry McMahon with Frost Bank. And I believe he's in the same space where you are.
Yeah.
And as soon as oh, there he is.
Hi.
Harry, what's going on?
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Doing well. It's good to see you. And you're here to tell us about this very special relationship that you and Gonzo have.
Well, yeah.
We go way back.
We do go way back. And again, I'm Harry McMahon. I'm with Frost Bank, and I'm proud to represent the bank and the thousands of Frost bankers that we have across the great state of Texas. every day, every one of our team members really works hard to make sure that this is a good and a great place to live and work for our communities. One of those things that we do is we sponsor events just like Save Our Art. And, funny thing, over the years, I've gotten to know Gonzo a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of it.
And it was before, like Gonzo said, it was before you clicked for your friends. And so we got to connect, and he schooled me early on about what street art is and the difference between street art and graffiti. And I've got to see really witness some great things. And so just funny enough, here in the recent past couple of months, Gonzo installed a new mural right across the street from the Frost Bank on the corner of Navigation and Canal in the East End. And I'm fortunate enough to call that my office. And so I look out my window and I see a piece of Gonzo's art. And he also installed a piece up in Dallas last year as part of the bank's Opt for Optimism campaign. And, it's a really great thing that we've got going on. Especially now that optimism is really more important than ever before. There's been a lot of research done that shows, exactly what optimism can do, not only for our health, for our physical health, for our emotional health. And, funny thing is there's been a lot more research that's done that says that optimism can affect your financial health as well. And so with that, I would encourage everybody to check out optforoptimism.com. That's OPTFOR optimism.com. Learn a little bit more. And I think you'll be really surprised at what you can find out. But past that, on behalf of all of us at Frost, thank you for letting us be a part of this great event.
Thank you so much, Harry.
Oh, thank you. That's it.
We're proud customers. And also,
Harry was voted best dressed man on campus, by the way. He usually rocks a bow tie. That's his calling card.
I believe it. Looking very sharp, Harry. And in case there are any new viewers who are just tuning in, that was Harry McMahon from Frost Bank. Frost Bank, Stella Artois, and KPRC Channel 2. We're the proud sponsors of this art talk. And I remember when I first moved here to Houston 4 years ago, and one of the very first community events I did was the Bayou City Art Festival. It was downtown right next to City Hall. And I thought, wow, I had no idea, this was such a broad event that included so many different artists, Gonzo, from all different places, but so many different mediums, people working with metal and with glass and with paint. And what you said earlier about when you were younger and you heard these ideas about art and people said, oh yeah, not a spray paint can, like that's not art. You have to use a brush and a canvas. It's interesting to see just how far we've come over the last few decades.
Yeah, for sure. I think like something with the Bayou City Arts Fest, like I remember the first time I went, and I've actually had the honor of being one of the judges in the past. So I've been involved from spectator to being judge, and maybe one year I'll be in it, right? But I enjoy going every year because you really get a sense of the sample of what's happening now in America, right? I mean, you can look through a magazine, you can look online, or you can actually go in person and see a wide variety, the best of the best from all over. And, just to really connect also, it's great networking. I've seen people that come through and I'm like, yo, man, like I'm discovering new people. I mean, there's only so many, you can only discover so much online and on your phone, but when you're actually out there and you're putting it in there, you meet great people. So hopefully we can translate that whole thing this year. And so we can merge the two and just really help all the artists out.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And again, I think the backstory, dude, of you and the card catalog and the Encyclopedia Britannica and all of that, I think your research history story is so good.
I never really considered myself a historian per se, but I did realize back then that because everything was analog, like when I saw a flyer, like I would grab the whole stack. Like when I saw something that had graffiti on it, I would grab everything and I would just stack it because I knew I would never run across that again. It's not like now where you can look it up and it's on your phone or whatever. But I realized that in the long, 20, 30 years of collecting, there is a thin line between archiving, documenting, and hoarding. And so, thankfully I have, everything in a bin. So as long as it's in a bin, it's not hoarding. That's .com.
So you don't have like stacks of pamphlets in your house, right? And little trails between.
No, thankfully I have them all in bins, and I have a route that I can walk in between them, so I can access things, but that's not hoarding.
Whatever system you have, dude, it's totally working. Listen, we do have some questions coming in from Facebook and also YouTube. Before we get to those, Gonzo, and while you take a sip of that very large cocktail, let's get this. What was that?
I'm gonna put my swimming cap on. I'm gonna dive in.
Dude, it looks like you're kind of spilling a little bit too. So I hope you're not wasting a single drop of that.
No. I have a container that's capturing everything under here, and then.
Perfect. So we do have some giveaways tonight, and we've got some swag. So some really great swag bags. And before we announce the very first question and ask it, this virtual background, I don't know, it's freaking me out. But can you guys see that? Text Save Our Art to 243-725. And whatever you can donate, any amount, it makes a huge difference. And certainly it's been a very strange year. Nobody saw COVID coming. And now that it's here, we can all certainly acknowledge that so many communities have really been hit hard, especially our arts community. So if you're able to donate, again, the number is right there over my shoulder. Text Save Our Art to 243-725. And now for this very first trivia question, it's about Frida Kahlo. And she was married to which famous muralist? Frida Kahlo was married to which famous muralist? And the first person to submit the correct answer in the comment section of the live feed, you will win a prize pack, and we will announce that winner a little later on during this hour. Sound good?
That's gangster. Can I throw a little bonus in there?
Oh, sure.
All right, I have something that I'll donate for the answer, but
okay.
What is her address? Boom. That's it. What's her address? 3 numbers. That's what I'm looking for.
Mexico
Don't worry about
City,
it. I know the answer. It's okay. Let's keep going.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, let's get to some of these questions for you. This one, Gonzo, comes from YouTube, from Beth Weaver. Do you have a tour map of where your mural artwork are located in the Houston area? That's a great question.
So the thing about a lot of street art is a lot of it doesn't last forever. Actually back in the days, when we found one wall that we could paint, we just kept flipping that same wall over and over and over. So in the span of my career, there's a lot of walls that I painted in the past that no longer exist. So as far as a map for my art, I don't necessarily have one, but, I would say just go out and explore and just have fun looking for stuff. I call it going on an urban safari, just get out there. Instead of shooting things down, you shoot them with your phone. Boom.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great philosophy. And again, a reminder, we were just walking through Edo last night. Park your car at St. Emmanuel and Leland. You can walk around. You cannot miss them down there. And better yet, go down to East End, and there will be block after block of interesting things to discover. And I know it's during COVID, but the Esplanade, Gonzo, typically has all kinds of, like, a street market and, a farmer's market that happens there on weekends.
Yeah, I think, again, the beauty of the city really exploding and embracing, street art culture, it really helps to bring in and usher in other kind of outsider art, other art that is also on the fringes. So I think graffiti in itself and street art is the vehicle, and there's a lot of other artists that are on the fringes that also kind of can ride that wave and get exposure. So, but again, you got to get out there. I know, put some mask on, keep some distance, and just go explore.
Yeah, it's a great way to see parts of the city. You just too busy driving by all the time in your car. All right, this question comes from Facebook, Julie Mincer. Does rap and other music still influence your art today, or are your inspirations more diverse?
All of the above. Music always inspires me. But I also get inspiration, I guess, as I've grown as a person and matured as an artist and as a person, and, different experiences. Not only do I still get inspired by music, but lately, what I really have been kind of digging into is just indigenous cultures. My parents immigrated from Mexico, so it would be like Friday, yo, let's go to Mexico. We'd road trip down for the weekend. And so I grew up traveling all across Mexico. And once you cross the border, they're selling indigenous culture on the corner, right? Like you can't escape it. So I grew up with all these visuals of patterns and colors and textures. And that's just so vivid in my mind. And as I got older and as I traveled further out and experienced different things, I always try to find the root of the people that were originally there, right? So if it's Native American or, thankfully I had an opportunity to go visit Taiwan. And before you know it, we're at the very top of this mountain hanging out with the Zo tribe. And I'm checking out their colors and their patterns and their beads and their textures. I had an awesome opportunity to go out to Nigeria. I'm hanging out with the Igbo tribe. And the more I experience life and people, the more I see that we're all more the same than different. And we all have these same similarities in our cultures. And so what I do is I absorb all that. I kind of internalize it. And then what I do is I mash it up. And so a lot of my work, you see these vivid color combinations or these patterns or these, something that for me is the combination of like, I'm going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, put it together, put some magic in it, boom. And what it is kind of visually what it looks like when we all come together. When we all work together, we can all make something beautiful happen. And so I try to express that. The series is called The Hybrid of Humanity. And a lot of my recent work, you can kind of see it going on. And my goal is that no matter what your background is, you can look at my art and something about it you can connect with.
That is such a great message, Gonzo. I especially think this year, people are feeling funky because of COVID. People are getting in fights on Facebook over politics. And I think oftentimes we need that reminder that we are all so much more alike than we are different. And art is a great way to sort of bridge that divide.
What I love about street art is that it's for the participant on the street level, like it's free. It doesn't matter how much money you have in your pocket, doesn't matter what kind of car you're driving, doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in. Everyone can come in and they're all equal looking at the wall. And what everyone takes from it's going to be different depending on your circumstances. But, art is the great equalizer. You don't need a lot of money to appreciate art. You don't need a fancy house to be able to appreciate street art. You can go out there, you can just look at it, appreciate it, get inspired, and then go about your way and hopefully do something with that inspiration.
It is so true. Art is all around us. All right, we have a winner to announce from Facebook, Jessica Walters. Congratulations, you'll have a prize pack. And
what did she answer? What did she answer? Which question?
Okay, well, I can give the answer to the question. Frida Kahlo was married to Diego Rivera. They married in 1929, divorced 11 years later in 1940, but spoiler alert, they remarried again later that same year. So it was a brief parting of ways. And from YouTube, Tina Zulu, oh my gosh, I know Tina Zulu, big fan of Tina's, love her. So she wrote in with your bonus question answer. Frida Kahlo's address is 247.
Yeah!
Okay, that was a great one. That was a very
Love
great
you, Tina. I love you. Came through.
Tina Zulu's good stuff. Okay, well, I don't know what the mystery prize is for Tina and Jessica. I'm not sure what's exactly in the prize pack, but I guarantee you some good stuff. I think some Channel 2 stuff is in there as well. And while Gonzo, you take another sip of that delicious looking enormous cocktail. Can't get over that. If you guys are posting any pictures of Gonzo's signature drink, maybe you've tried making it at home, or even if you have been, reposting some of his favorite artwork or mural that you've seen in and around the Houston area, use these hashtags, Save Our Art, hashtag Save Our Art, or hashtag HOU ArtFest. Sound good? Okay, and also I do have a bit more, there's a lot of stuff to read around here. The prize pack is a Yeti tumbler from Frostbank, pretty good. A Save Our Arts t-shirt, like the one I am wearing right now. A Patagonia jacket from Stella Artois, which is a really great gift. And some Houston Life drinkware from KPRC. And if you need any more Houston Life drinkware, we got a ton of that at the office. Gonzo, all right. So do you ever sit back and wonder, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would your life look like? Because when you tell the history of your determination and your willingness to write a snail mail letter or to pick up the phone and call, I mean, it seems like you're a very determined person. Can you imagine doing anything else besides street art?
No, I tried, but not on purpose.
What was it?
You know, I knew that this is all I wanted to do. I knew that art was really the only thing that I had a passion for. So I was never afraid to pursue that passion. As cheesy as it sounds, when you pursue your passion, the world can be crumbling around you and you're happy because you're doing what you love and you love what you do. And that's kind of carried me through the last 30 years. But I don't know what I would be doing if it wasn't for art, because this is the only thing that I do that really makes me feel like I'm alive and contributing to society. And if I found something else later on in life, then maybe I'll do that. But for now, art's it's who I am. It's what I do.
Do you mind if I ask just more about your parents? I already asked you about the turning point in Houston and when this public art became acceptable, right? But you described a relationship after your parents came here to the States. They had a different idea, let's say, about what you could potentially do with your life. And I think that for so many artists out there, they can absolutely identify with this, right? Parents who want their kids to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And then it's like, mom and dad, I want to be an artist. And immediately parents start to worry. So at what point did your parents become more open to this idea?
So again, I was graduating. I was 17. I had the moment, I'm going to be an artist. I remember being excited, and I remember coming home. I remember telling my mom, I got this figured out. I'm going to be an artist. She's like, no, you're not. And she kept saying, art is not a career. Art is a hobby. And I love the way she phrased it. She said, no, you need to go to college. You need to get a job. And then you're going to work all day at your job. And then when you come home, you can make all the art you want. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really the way I want to do that. And for me, I just felt like, why can't art be what I do all day? And if I make $1, great. But, you know, I wanted to do something that made me happy and fulfilled me. But my parents, no discredit to them, but, you know, they didn't know about art museums. They didn't know about art galleries. They didn't know where to go to take me to get inspired. Thankfully, I was in the East End, and Leo's Rebirth mural inspired me. But, you know, for them, they just didn't understand being creative, you know, as a career. And you know, for me, it's like when I meet younger people, you know, I tell them, look, I'm no better than you. I didn't grow up in any better circumstance than you. My parents didn't initially give me that pat on the back in support of like, yeah, be an artist. And so it's all about, you know, don't use anything as a crutch in life. Like, why don't you just do it? Just rock it, you know? And for me, at the beginning, when my parents were discouraging me, it actually, I turned what could have been negative into a positive, in the sense of like, I use that as encouragement. Like, okay, if you don't believe in what I'm doing, I'm going to work 3 times as hard, maybe out of spite, just to show you that I'm going to rock this thing out. But eventually, my parents, they kind of, it was kind of like this slow evolution, because they used to be like, don't do that. That's bad. It's not good, whatever. And then it got to a point where they kind of just stopped telling me no. Like, they supported me by not telling me to quit, if that makes any sense. So even that simple thing helped a lot. Then it was more like, okay, is there anything we can do? Like, can we help you somehow? But in my mom's mind, it's more like, is there anything we can do? Like, can I send you to college? And I was like, no. And so I think in the end, my dad, bless his heart, sat me down one day and he was like, hey, am I going to have to support you the rest of my life? And he was saying it from his heart, like, you know, if I got to support you financially and you got to live here the rest of your life, like, that's fine with me. Just let me know so I can prepare my future that includes you in it. And I remember telling him, like, no, Pops, like, don't worry about me. I'm going to make it one way or another. And I don't want you to feel responsible for me as an adult. Like, I'm going to do this. I could live broke and live off a dollar menu until I make it, right? And once I kind of gave him the okay to let me go, he was just like, hey, go ahead, go for it. I'm your biggest fan. And ever since then, like, you know, he definitely has been super supportive. Unfortunately, my mom passed away about 14 years ago. So she saw all the struggle in my life and never really saw I guess, where I'm at today. I do have, I mean, I'm a spiritual person. So I do feel that once she passed away, she saw it from a distance, like, oh, I kind of see what's going on. I think she kind of pulled some strings to help me out. But unfortunately, she never really got to see what's happened with me today. And but you know, it's all good. It's all part of the story.
I'm sure she's very proud of you. And Gonzo, earlier you had mentioned that some of the best advice you ever received was someone telling you that, you know, forget about making money, find what you love to do, and then the money will come, right? Like you will make money doing what you love. Now, when people ask you your advice, what do you find yourself giving them that same advice, or what do you say to young people who find themselves in the same predicament you were in?
You're always young enough to mess up. No matter how old you are, this is America. You're always young enough to collapse, fall apart, and rebuild. I mean, that's the beauty of this country, is like, no matter what happens in life, you have the opportunity to restart, reinvent. So for me, it's like, don't be afraid of a negative possibility. It's kind of like this. Back in the days, we used to have this show called Tarzan, right? And Tarzan would swing through the jungle, right? But he couldn't catch the next vine unless he let go of the one behind him. If you hang on to that, you're never going to progress, because it's just going to swing you back. So as you're going through life, you got to be okay to let go of whatever that is, and in fear of falling. Like, you got to let that go, because you have to have the faith that I'm going to let go of this security, and I'm going to have the faith that that next one's there when I need to grab it. So just go through life with the idea that it's going to be okay to fail, learn from that. It's a lesson in life. I'm almost the epitome of success through failure. You know, like, everyone sees all these cool things that I'm doing, but nobody sees the 1,000 things that didn't work out, right?
Of course.
But it's not being afraid to just let go of what is holding you down, not be afraid, and be positive, be optimistic, like my man Harry, and just know that it's going to work out one way or another. It's going to work out. You have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you, right?
Dude, that Tarzan analogy is one of the best analogies I think I have ever heard. Were you always this optimistic? Like, even during those teenage years?
You know what? That has been my secret sauce. Like, I've always been optimistic. I mean, people around me are like, the sky's on fire. I'm like, yo, let's get some marshmallows. I don't know. I mean, like, for me, it's like, what's the point in being negative, or what's the point in being a downer? What's the point? Like, life's too short for that, man. Like, just keep rolling and just be positive. Because again, it's like, a lot of people don't realize that you in yourself, not talking pandemic wise, but you yourself are infectious. So if you want to be negative, that infectious is going to spread. If you're going to be positive, you're going to be optimistic, you're going to have that positive energy. That's going to start infiltrating the people around you. And then collectively, you're all going to do something together. You're all going to rise up. So you have to stay positive. And sometimes you have to be positive for the guy next to you, right? Because he might not be positive, or she might not be positive. You got to have more than your share, so you can help kind of plant those seeds.
Do you wake up like this every day, or does it take a cup of coffee to get going?
So I used to drink a dark carbonated soda, like a lot of it. And then my wife one day was like, that's bad for your health. And my homie one day was out painting, and he had a thermos full of coffee. And I was like, yo, you drink coffee? He was like, yeah. And he just chugged the whole thing. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. And he's like, I hate the taste of coffee. So I make this thermos, I let it get cold, and I just chug it. I'm like, that is genius. And so I go and I tell my wife, and she said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why don't you just drink an espresso? And I'm like, what's that? And she said, well, it's like taking a shot. And I understood that language of taking a shot. So I was like, okay. And before I could even like process that, we're at Target buying a little espresso machine. And now I'm just like, so yeah, coffee runs my life.
Okay, well, it's working for you. However many shots of espresso you take.
Stay off the drugs. Coffee.
You know what? That's great advice.
And Red Bull.
Red Bull. Okay, we have just about 10 minutes left. Gosh, that was a really quick hour. I can't believe it's almost 7 p.m. I want to very quickly ask this second trivia question for our viewers right now while you take another sip there, Gonzo.
It's intermittent.
What was that?
Intermission.
Relax, kick back, take a break, have a few sips, have two, grab a straw, pull up a chair. Okay, second trivia question. How many paintings did Vincent van Gogh sell during his lifetime? Is it 55, 27, 1, or is it none? You can answer in the comment section below, and the first person with the correct answer will win that swag pack, which includes a Yeti tumbler from Frost Bank, Sailor Art t-shirt, Patagonia jacket from Stella Artois, and some Life drinkware from KPRC Channel 2. And we will get to that. We will get to that answer in just a moment in our remaining 9 minutes. In the meantime, if you haven't donated and you would like that opportunity, it is right there. Check out the text above my shoulder. Save our art to 243-725. And again, if you are posting any photos related to Gonzo, his art, or that signature drink, what's it called again?
It's Gonzo247's Paleta Palette.
Paleta Palette.
Yeah, so back in the days, well, it's all melted, but you know, we grew up eating old school paletas. It's basically a Mexican popsicle. And one day it was like, what would happen if I just shoved it into my drink? And so magic happens. And so locally, there's an awesome craftsman. He goes by Popson. And he's a craftsman. He makes these popsicles. And I was like, yo, man, can I? And he makes like crazy concoctions. And so I just tried one of his crazy concoctions with another crazy concoction, and it just happened. And that's what life's all about, is taking those risks.
Take the risks and magic happens, right? And you might get a really strong cocktail in the meantime. All right, as we wait to hear who our next swag winner is, we have just a few moments left, Gonzo. And what thoughts do you want to share with our viewers tonight and with the artist community, especially considering what everyone's been through this year with COVID?
You know, I think, again, it's going to pass. But in the meantime, it's like, I know a lot of people that go through life that say, you know, they're doing their thing like, man, if I only had more time to do this, I've only had more time. Now you got plenty of time. So now you have no excuses. Like, if you're stuck at home, if you're stuck indoors, now is the time to really utilize this moment and start activating these ideas, these thoughts, these projects, and start knocking those off the list, right? As an artist, what we do is produce. So in these times, if you don't have a commission, if you don't have any income, if you don't have, just start stacking your art, start producing. It's almost like, you know, now's the best time to just produce constantly, because as soon as this comes out, you're going to have this crazy inventory that you can start to unload. So it's not like because there's no money coming in, you can't be productive. It's almost the opposite. Like, if there's no money coming in, then you start stacking those artwork and those pieces or whatever, you know, those ideas, the music, whatever that creativity thing you have, like, start manifesting that, because then you're going to have this content. And nowadays it's like, you know, people, again, turning things into positives. You know, now live streaming's a thing. You know, artists can live stream what they're doing, you know, musicians, dancers. And so it's really figuring out, again, it's how much can you do with nothing, really. It's like, that's the best thing. It's like, you have zero. All right, how can you make something out of zero? That's the challenge.
It is a challenge. It can be done. Hey, talk to us a little bit about this piece of art that you're going to be auctioning off.
All right. So I got this. I'm going to hold it up here.
Yeah.
Let me move the magical drink. It slides on its own. All right. So this is it's a limited run.
Oh, cool.
It's a print of 100. So this is a Hugh, Hugh is where the heart's at. And it's an astronaut, and he's kind of has this symbolic old school Astros type gear suit. It's got the skyline in his visor, because, you know, the reflection of him in his visor is the city. I heart Hugh. I love Hugh. And so this is a print, but what I do is I embellish them. It's hard to see in the video, but each one is a one of a kind, and I hand embellish them, so they're all unique. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something even crazy extra on this one. So if you want to bid on it, let's throw some numbers out there, and I'm just going to go bananas on it. So you're done. They're all one of a kind to begin with, but the one you win is going to be one of a kind, you know, like fractions. So let's make this happen. Come on, bid 2, 4, 3, 7, 2, 5, right? Yeah. that how you do it? It's on the.
It's beautiful. We're going to post it on the Facebook page, I believe. And for those who are wondering, the auction should be live until 8 p.m. So right now it's 6:55 p.m. You've got an hour and 5 minutes. And visit the Bayou City Art Festival Facebook page if you would like to bid. And that is fantastic. That really is absolutely beautiful. Wait, but are we auctioning off more than one? I thought it was just one.
It is. It's one, so you got to get on it now.
It is just the one. Okay, so essentially you can bid in the comment section on Facebook, and then the highest winner, once the auction closes at 8 p.m., that highest bidder will win that one-of-a-kind piece of art. Gonzo, that's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm excited to be able to do something, right? We all put in. We all put in.
Well, listen, in our final few minutes, we just have about 4 minutes left. We do need to award another prize pack. And guess what? It's Julie on Facebook answered correctly. He sold one in his lifetime. And my gosh, I mean, people think of these artists as being, you know, so many artists are not actually able to experience success in their lifetimes, right? But thankfully, that seems like many artists of the past, you know, that was the scenario. At least these days, so many artists are at least appreciated while they're still alive.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like, you know, the whole reason we're doing this is so that we can give that opportunity to an artist to sell their work and feel that value. And, you know, hopefully that this is the incubator that this one particular artist needs to then catapult, you know, into stardom. So it's all for a good cause.
Well, Gonzo, you have left your mark on this city. And we do want to remind our viewers, in case you're just tuning in or you caught just the back end of our chat tonight, that this is the first of actually 5 artist chats. We're going to be doing this every single week. There will be a different host and a different artist every single week. Next week, we'll be featuring Amanda Bennett from Louisiana, and I am so happy about this. We love Amanda Bennett. She was the festival featured artist, I believe, 2 years ago, and we have a number of her pieces here in our home. She's got a great story, but every single week, we promise it's going to be an interesting chat. And what a rare opportunity. Again, who knew that COVID, Gonzo, would be hitting us this year? But I think it's so great that so many artists like yourself have figured out ways to continue connecting, not just with fans, but with the community.
No, you know, again, it's like we're all going to get this. We all got to put in, we all got to be together. We all got to be optimistic. We all just have to like stay positive. And then one day we'll look back and laugh at 2020, right?
Oh my gosh, I hope so. I hope we can. Well, listen, Gonzo, it's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you. And again, I feel like we hang out all the time because as I'm walking, biking, driving, running through our great city, there's a piece of you on every corner just about.
And you're always on my TV in the morning.
Well, I'm glad you're watching Channel 2, Gonzo. We appreciate that. And really, on behalf of Channel 2 and Stella Artois and Frost Bank, we so appreciate all of you joining us and continuing to support the art community during these unprecedented times. So thanks again for joining us for our very first art talk and our virtual happy hour, Gonzo. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. I'm honored to be the first. And I mean, this has been an amazing experience for me. And I look forward to seeing how this all develops. So thank you all for tuning in. Everyone's watching. And we'll see you in the mix.
Okay, and I think it's safe to say that our viewers right now, they've probably already found Bayou City Art Festival on Facebook and the social channels. But in the meantime, in our last minute, Gonzo, what's the best way for fans to connect with you?
Gonzo247 at everything. Like at Gonzo247, you name it, .com, whatever, Facebook, Instagram, the whole thing.
Okay, fantastic. And in our final moments, again, if you pay attention to the text over that shoulder, if you want to text Save Our Arts to 243-725, any donations are appreciated to help the Bayou City Art Festival continue doing its fantastic work. Again, next year celebrating 50 years. This is the first year they actually had to cancel or postpone and change events. It's a strange time for all of us, but with all of your help, we're going to get through it and we're going to be better than ever. So I'm Derek Shore from KPRC Channel 2. Gonzo247, it's great to see you, bud.
Likewise.
To all of those viewers commenting tonight, congrats to our winners, and we'll see you again next week.